we are back. Welcome to the SoapBox, where people who work, volunteer, and care about recovery tell us who they are and what they're most passionate about. My name is Rich Jones, RN, and I represent parentingyourchildinrecovery.com and the home website, secondstarts.com. That's number 2NDSTARTS.com. And my guest today is William Brown. William is the Executive Director of Living Beyond Foundation. He's a transformational leader, a speaker, a coach, and he is dedicated to guiding individuals on their journey of self-discovery and authentic living. William, thanks for being here with me today.
Oh, Rich, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I'm fascinated when I looked over your website and saw you, and then saw a couple things about you and your cool, smooth demeanor. I said I want to do that show, and I think the things that you're going to talk about today really, to me, relate to my thoughts about what recovery really is. Because to me, recovery isn't just not doing drugs or just that does. It's more about really healing from the inside out and making that transformation. So thank you for being here. What I always do with my guests is I ask them, please give me the Cliff Notes version of who you are, how you got here. Let us know about you and what's going on.
Absolutely. I am William Brown. I got here by just being curious about my life and how I was living my life. You know, sometimes, as they say, it looks good on paper, right? You're doing, you got the house, you got the job, you got the wife, you got the kids and all of that, but there's still something that feels off. There's like this inner alignment, and I think sometimes when you're talking about dealing with drugs or alcohol or other addictions and everything, it's what do you do when you're off there. For me, I just went in, right? I was one of those kids, and I think still an adult, that I wanted to be aware of my life. I didn't want to just, zone out, right? And so the more that I went in and got quiet, and that's what I mean by that. I got quiet. I started hearing, the whispers of God and just things that were, I guess, the truth about me instead of what was happening around me. And from that, I really just said, you know what? I need to take this stillness and bring it to the chaos that, that was my life. And from that, I just got opportunities to listen to stories and just be a space for people that wanted to be themselves. And so I just took that on, and here I am.
Okay. Yeah, and I mentioned this to you when we talked the other day. That storytelling part of it, that meant a lot to me. And I told you why, but I know I've had storytellers in my family. I was always fascinated about that. Anybody that is a true storyteller, it's just this fascinating to hang around,
Right.
the way they deliver it. I think that's great. What I want to do now is, first of all, before we even move on, I just want to remind everybody or tell everybody, if you're a parent, mentor, or practitioner who cares, loves, or works with young adults at risk, in trouble, or maybe even currently in treatment, parentingyourchildinrecovery.com is an excellent non-clinical multiplier, and it works with any of your evidence-based treatments. Okay, William, I'm going to put you up on the soapbox, and I want to talk to you about your theories and your thought processes and your pillars, because I think it's very fascinating. The first thing I want to bring up to you, okay, is tell me, people are not lost, right? You say they're not lost. They're just living identities that no longer fit. Elaborate on that for me.
Right. I think so many times, I'll say it this way. There's a phrase called identity crisis, right? In our, sometimes at a certain age, you get, then you're that. I really kind of moved that around and said, your identity is in crisis. You're not having an identity crisis. Your identity, who you think you are, is in crisis, meaning that you can feel that, hey, how I'm showing up doesn't feel right, right now. And so what happens for people is they say, well, if I'm not this, who am I? And then they're just, have this feeling of loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I believe is that instead of feeling loss, and you can still, you can feel what you feel, but consider that it is just yourself, your true self, asking for your attention, right?
Okay.
Inviting you to kind of, as I said before, get quiet, just kind of be still. We're so busy doing our life, it's hard for us to just be.
Right.
And so in those moments where, as they say, it hits the fan, right?
Right.
And our identity is wrapped up in that, then we find ourselves reeling. And so, like you said, we go into addictions and different things to kind of numb ourselves from that. But the one thing that, like I said, if you don't see yourself as loss, it's just an opportunity to see who you truly are. Then you'll see yourself in the situation, and so you can make different choices.
Okay. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. Actually, it
Well,
does.
good.
Actually,
That's good.
yes. Yes. Okay. How about this one? Okay.
Okay.
I like this one. Okay.
Okay.
You cannot self-care your way out of a misaligned life.
Right.
Explain that one.
Most of the time, people think of self-care sometimes say, a vacation,
Mhm.
bubble bath,
Right.
candles, I just, mental health day, all the things that we say that we can get ourselves back to zero. But those are just, and it go back to your work, those are just symptoms, right? Those are
Mhm.
just things, that prescriptions that we take and we can lean on and think that, oh, okay, all I need is, a bubble bath and I'll be all right. And
Right.
it's like, when your life is out of alignment, when you are not at a center for yourself, and you really don't know who you are and how you want to show up in your life, those temporary fixes will um, become meaningless.
Mhm.
And so then it's like, hey, okay, I needed 2 days off. Now I need a week off. Give me a whole month. And then
Right.
people just check out of their life, right?
Mhm.
And so I am saying, if you feel that misalignment, if you feel that I need a break, I need to take a breath, there is a need in me because I'm reeling. The more that you're able to just breathe
Okay.
in that, and pause, and just get aware of what's happening, what's showing up. If you're angry, if you're disappointed, if you're, put a name to it, from that, and just kind of own it. And it's like, the more that we're able to sit with our emotions
Mhm.
and just be aware of it, because sometimes, anger is just, a byproduct of fear. Fear comes in first, and then
Right.
anger, because how you deal with it, right? How you're managing it. And so really asking yourself how I'm feeling, and what I can do to kind of get myself to, some sorts of an alignment.
Mhm.
And I think the more that you get aware of, your personality, what you like and what you, um, your zone of genius, as they say, then you can see that, okay, I am off. Because too often when we're doing our life, we're performing it, right?
Mhm.
We're doing it for somebody else,
Right.
where we're doing it for, and then we're really not aware of what we really want and how we want to show up in the situation. So self-care is just a way of saying that I'm going to do it a healthier way than alcohol or drugs. But then it's really like those other, vices or things. It is, a one size fits all, right?
Right.
And really, until we know ourselves, we can't take care of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so you can't just do so. The process of really figuring out who you are, because I'm sure, I don't know how bubble baths, you do with bubble baths or anything like that, but it may be your care might be just, walking, right? Your
Right.
care might be something. Take those moments to kind of get to your center, because you know what gets you to that place where you can go to your next decision.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't had a bubble bath in a long while, but you know what? It sounds enjoyable. I think the last time I had one, I enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So I'm with you on that. I agree with you. I feel like a good percentage of the battle sometimes is taking the time to actually look and recognize and see things the way they are.
Right.
Just
Absolutely.
take some type of inventory instead of
Mhm.
glossing over it. That's
Mhm.
you got a couple legs up if you can just do that. Look and pay
Right.
attention to what's happening and
Absolutely.
give it a name. Here's another one. This is good. Authenticity is not an achievement. It's something you return to. This is
Right.
I want to hear this.
Yeah. So, what there's, authenticity is turning into a buzzword, right?
Right.
So it's like you have to be your authentic self, everybody, 3 steps to your authentic self and all, all of those things. And really, you are the only person to know if you're being authentic. And the only way that you know that is by, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself over, is getting quiet, pausing, and doing that. You, or that's the desire to get to you. Most of the times, the people around us, people who love us, the people who deal with us or everything, they are either a reflection or a projection of what they see around us.
Mhm.
And so that's information, but that's not the truth. And so most of the times people think, when they think of authenticity, they think that, I told them, what was on my mind, right? I'm
Right.
keeping it 100.
Right.
That's not authenticity.
Okay.
That's a moment of, saying something. Authenticity is something where you feel I believe that there's a peace that comes to you when you're being yourself.
Okay.
There is this knowing, there's this inner knowing. There is this sense that, okay, this is who I am in this moment. I can either share this with
Mhm.
a loved one or friend, or in this situation, or not. Then you will make judgments about it. I have a conversation within it called occasionally authentic.
Okay.
And it's really a self-care, or a self-acceptance, or a self-compassion conversation, really. Because most of the times when we're in those situations where we need to show up and we choose not to, we kick ourselves, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, geez, I could have said this, and they should have,
Mhm.
and then we feel bad about ourselves. And what I am inviting people to do is recognize when your authentic self needs to show up, and when it doesn't. You can decide that, because you're coming home to yourself is recognizing if it's appropriate, if it's safe. Sometimes being ourselves, it's a sad thing, is it's not appreciated. And so
Right.
why would we put ourselves out there to be like batted around? Because people we are so good at playing other people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people enjoy that person more than who we are. Right? You know?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You know? And so when you show up, it's like, whoa, I don't know you. Right? You know?
Exactly.
Where's the nice guy that, you know, the guy that's always smiling, the guy that tells me everything's okay, even when it's not, you know, that'll lie to me. It's like your authentic self is just
right.
you. And it's like sometimes people don't want that. And so really coming home to yourself is a place of peace and ease, and you just know. And so the more that you don't see it as this destination or this thing that you get to put on and take off, depending on where you are, that's what I want people to get to. That the more that you're aware, okay, I'm being authentic right now, or I'm not, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, makes a lot of sense. And one of the things when I get an opportunity to tell people, I said, you know, when you strive to, you know, look into yourself and make those changes and make yourself better, you have to understand that there's going to be people in your circle who like you the way you were.
Right.
And
right.
They're going to give you hints, nods, and that you've got to be prepared for that, because there are people who like you just the way you were. You didn't like you the way you were, but there's a lot of people that are comfortable with that. So you got to watch that.
Absolutely.
Too. This is the one I've been waiting for.
Okay.
Walk each other home.
Right.
I deliberately didn't let you explain that to me because I wanted to hear it shout.
Right. Wonderful. There's a number of spiritual teachers that, you know, talk about we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Right.
And so, you know, in that, you know, way of thinking, one way of believing, we're spirits, that we are we just exist, we are part of creation. We are an expression of a unique expression of God, right? And of the divine, the creator. You know, that's the teaching. And so in our human experiences, we are learning more, in the process of learning more about ourselves. We are doing that as an individual with others,
right,
on our journey back home, because the numbers are going up, meaning they're going forward. We can't turn back the odometer, right?
Right.
We may look a little young, right?
Yeah.
But we're still going in one direction. And how we really, our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with others is walking us towards the infinity, right? And so the more that, you know, sometimes we feel like we want to get there sooner than later. Right. And sometimes, you know, the relationships that we have cause us, you know, as they say, take years off of us, right? You know, type of thing. But the more that we are comfortable with ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. The more that we recognize that we're not just comfortable in our skin, but comfortable outside of our skin, right? Yes. Recognizing the, you know, who we are beyond this experience right here, then a lot of things that we are experiencing are just lessons, or just things that help us to get home, or to that place, you know, of peace, of understanding, of connection to who we are.
Okay. All right. Okay, everybody. Remind everybody, or say it again, if you're the parent, mentor, or practitioner who loves, cares, or works with a young adult at risk, in trouble, or maybe even in treatment, parentingyourchildinrecovery.com is a non-clinical option that accelerates and multiplies the results you're getting from your current evidence-based treatments. William,
yes.
I want to talk now, take this last segment, talk about some of your projects. Explain the Living Beyond Foundation to me. Give it to me in a nutshell. What it's about. What you guys are about.
Right. There is an industry of retreats. Self-help is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And there's a mindset that in order for us to basically understand who we are, we have to, sell all our possessions, go to India, right?
Right.
Eat, pray, live, right?
Right.
Type of thing. And I believe, and the foundation believes that ain't nobody got time for that, right? We got our life, right? And so I wanted to create an organization that would give people access to self-discovery, to having when your identity is in crisis, right? You don't have a budget, right? A line item budget to, okay, my identity is in crisis. I need to, I can take this amount of money and go on retreat or something like that.
Right.
I wanted to make it affordable and accessible for people to take that pause. If they come, to one of our retreats, or if they are, what we're building is a community where people can stay longer if they need to. It's not going to break the bank. It's not going to uproot their life. I think it is really, and there's one of the belief system is that it is very easy to blow up your life. It is very easy to go, done. I'm not, and you just walk away from responsibilities or anything.
Right.
The work is to stay in your life and make some different choices.
Exactly.
And so having Living Beyond work with coaches, spiritual teachers, and practitioners and to give you access to them so you can stay in your life, as you mentioned before, get to a place of what is really happening. The one thing about storytelling, we are storytelling machines, right?
Okay.
Something happens and we got a story about it, right? But the reality is, it's just something happened, right?
Right.
How we responded to it, is, it will help you or will hurt you. And so really being able to get to a place where you can look at, if you're dealing with a divorce or a job loss, or if you're, I've coached people that are empty nesters. That is, when you are a parent, right, and sometimes stay at home, that's your identity.
Right.
And so it's like on the other side of grown children, it's like, sometimes we feel like, our children were always going to be children, right? They weren't going to be adults and deal with, adult things. And so dealing with that identity beyond that. So having someone dealing with those transitions, because that's what living beyond means. Are you willing to live? What I mean by live is make choices beyond where you are, what you believe, what you see. Can I live? Can I make decisions beyond what's happening right now? Because most of the times, what is right in front of us stops us.
Right.
Keeps us from makes us feel that I have no say in my life. Mm-hmm. We always have a say in our life. Right. Some of those says are harder than others, right?
Yeah.
But we have a say.
Right.
I've learned through coaching with coaches and on my own journey, that you can make a decision or not a decision. You're going to get a result, right? Your decision that you make has to be intentional if you want the result that you want.
Right.
If you don't make a decision, there's still going to be a result, in that. And sometimes the decisions that we don't make the results we don't want,
Exactly.
Right. And so helping people to give them the space to make choices, living, right, stay in their life, beyond what they're dealing with right now. And that's what Living Beyond is all about. And that's what we want, to make it accessible to the people, and to finding a group of community that, will, raise the money, or willing to give back, to have it available for as many people as possible.
Okay. All right. Wait. And we're going to close out the show.
Right.
Kind of combine these two together for me, because you have
Okay.
a sacred journey coaching,
Right.
and also a well-connected network. So you have a separate coaching program, and then connect the network. You're connecting practitioners and such. I find that interesting. I think I signed up on the email for that thing. Anyway.
Right. So I'll start with the well-connected network, and it's really that I believe that you can't do this alone. There's a lot of ideas that I have, and you probably heard some of them, for the first time. But in order to have a holistic way of communicating with people and helping people move on their journey, I wanted to have a network of practitioners and people that have different voices, that have the same love to take care of people. And so we can co-create retreats or co-create programs to kind of speak to something. There are some things, like you're doing from the addiction side. I have a heart for people to be themselves, and I know how addiction can get, in the way of that. Yeah. But there's a lot of language that I don't have, that I need to partner with someone that has that language, to be able to speak to people before they can get to themselves. Right. They have to get beyond all the things that are getting in the way of that. And so creating that network is kind of letting me have access to a lot of different people that have the heart to get people basically to the mission of Living Beyond. Okay. The Sacred Journey coaching and retreat conversation is recognizing that there is a spiritual and a secular way of looking at our life. When you look at sacred, in its basic form for me is important, right? It's like my life is important. And sometimes people live and communicate with each other as if they don't believe their life is important.
Right.
And so I believe that there's a divine part of our life, but there's an important. And I think in order for us to get to the divine part, we have to get to the important part of it. And so the more that people take their life as important, sometimes I was told as a kid I was too serious, and so sometimes, when we think there's a seriousness of our life, then we miss the joy, we miss the play, we miss the fun, we miss all of that because our life is serious. But I want us to get to a place that it is a sacred journey. What you're doing, you're living the choices, the things that are happening in your life is important, and it's a part of a journey that you're on. And that's what the conversations that we have in Sacred Journey coaching. One of the signature programs is the Crossroads Reset. And it just looks at, like you said before, then it's a great conversation of seeing what's so. Mm-hmm. You're at a crossroads to make a decision. And so you see what's in front of you, and then you look back at yourself. You take the path within and say, okay, who am I making this decision that's going to cause me to go either way? And from that, you can make the decision that fits you.
Very good. Very, very good. That's very interesting. We're looking at the comments. We're going to give you all the information you can do to get involved with the network, or if you need to take advantage of some of William's, some help, some maybe Sacred Journey coaching, whatever, you have heard that maybe moved you. That we'll have some things in the comments and in the description to just help you along your way. I appreciate you coming on and enlightening us and working with us. And I want to be in the network. So get ready.
Okay? Absolutely. I am honored for you to be there. I look forward to it.
So everybody, thank you for being here. And as always, when we part, we tell everybody, remember to help somebody get better, help somebody stay better. Most importantly, help somebody be better. Thank you.
Wonderful. Blessings.